Welcome to another episode of Psychic Sunday. I am your host, Reverend Erin-Ashley, and today we're going to talk about 5 common forgiveness myths. And first, we're going to talk about what forgiveness is, and we're going to dive into 5 of the common forgiveness myths that I see most often whenever people come to work with me, how to forgive the healthy way, and so let's dive in. So first off, I'm going to back up just a minute and tell you my forgiveness story. In 2011, I was in a bit of a bind, right? I was engaged to someone, and then I was calling my sisters to be bridesmaids, and I was really excited. And then he got home from a business trip and told me that he was leaving me for another woman. And as you can imagine, I was feeling a lot of emotions, and most of them were not happy emotions. I was feeling sad, betrayed, angry, all of these things. But I was very clear that I wanted to be free from that experience and that I really, really, really wanted a soulmate relationship. And my guides at the time told me that the only way for that to happen was to truly forgive my ex and the woman he left me for. And so I did that. A little bit begrudgingly at first, but I went ahead and got started. And by the end of my forgiveness practice, I had met my current husband. We've been married now for over 7 years, been together for almost 8. And I have a life that I genuinely enjoy. And it's because I've avoided some of these misconceptions. So forgiveness is really about experiencing emotional, mental, and spiritual freedom from whatever did or didn't happen. So when I was forgiving my ex, the thing that I was focusing on was being free from the experience of betrayal. It was about being free from thinking that it somehow reflected on who I was or wasn't. And it was also about being free to live my calling without it having a negative impact on what I was doing, right? So it's about being free from that experience and not letting it color or cloud my life moving forward. It wasn't about a lot of other things that we're going to get into. It is all about freedom and experiencing that peace and the presence that you are. So whenever you're in your most peaceful state, you'll be able to experience yourself as this sense of ever expansiveness, as a being without bounds, and it's a really lovely experience. And forgiveness is one of the pieces that allow you to have that experience. So you know you have completely forgiven someone when you can think of the person or circumstance and you feel at peace and you feel that sense of expansion instead of anger or resentment. So when I think about my ex now, I just wish him well on his journey. You know, I think that he's a wonderful human being who made some weird decisions that didn't make any sense and that were hurtful at the time. But I genuinely want him to have a good life, right? And I want him to have peace and well-being. So some myths of forgiveness. Myth number 1, if you forgive someone, you're letting them off the hook. Now, with the example of my ex, eventually I did set a boundary where I told him that I couldn't talk with him anymore because he kept doing things that were harmful to me. And so I didn't let him off the hook for what he was doing. And I highly encourage you that as you go on your forgiveness journey, that you don't use forgiveness as a way to stuff down appropriate and healthy responsibility. If someone is doing something that's harmful, it's helpful for both you and them if you tell them at least once. And if they really aren't honoring what you're saying or they refuse to listen, you can choose to move on. But forgiveness is all about your internal freedom. It's about you being present to who you are and who you want to be, and the joy and love and all the good things that you deserve to experience. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with them. If you forgive, you need to get rid of your boundaries. This is another common one. Some people use forgiveness as a tool to avoid setting healthy boundaries. So if they forgive someone, they can pretend like it didn't happen and they get to stay in denial. I don't recommend that you do this. When you're forgiving, again, this is about you honoring yourself. So you do want to set boundaries. You do want to have those conversations. you do want to make sure that you're engaging with other people in ways that are supportive to you and supportive to them, which means creating and setting and honoring boundaries all around. You have to ignore your own well-being or needs in order to forgive. This is the opposite of forgiveness. This is a type of self-abuse. You want to honor your needs and your well-being, and that's why you want to forgive, right? Again, my definition of forgiveness isn't about avoiding hard truths. It's about honoring what you need in the moment and honoring your personal truth in the moment. And it is not about pretending like you're not sad or upset or angry. It's about healing that so that you can experience the freedom. Forgiveness means forgetting. This is also false. You do not have to forget that someone did something that was harmful to you. You can keep that in mind. It might be talking about a character thing that they have, right? A habitual thing that they do where they continually disregard your well-being. And that's really important to keep in mind. Other times, someone just might make a mistake, and that's okay. And if you forget in that context, that's fine, right? Like maybe it makes you angry in the moment, then you work through it, and then you forgive, and you genuinely don't need to remember it. But oftentimes, the things that you genuinely feel called to forgive are the things where there is a deeper betrayal. So you don't necessarily have to forget them. You do want to be internally free. And forgiving, this is the fifth myth, forgiving them means that you condone their behavior. I see this the most often. If you somehow hold on to your anger, then they will be punished more. And it's this really odd myth that our society has created, because your internal experience of their betrayal does not necessarily correlate with them feeling punished or not punished, right? Your actions might, your words might, but you can actually feel perfectly peaceful and set a boundary. You can feel perfectly peaceful and expansive and decide that you don't want them in your life. You can feel perfectly peaceful and have a conversation so that you can cultivate a deeper understanding and deeper healing and explain what they did that was not helpful for you, right? So those are the 5 myths. So let's talk about how to forgive the healthy way. I have a few tips for you, and then I have a link to a meditation at the end of this video. First off, there are many methods to forgiving people. I highly recommend that you play around and try on the different methods. See what works for you. See what feels best to you, the most natural. I really recommend that you try all the ways until you find one that's just like a perfectly fitting dress or a perfectly fitting glove. The healthy way of forgiving will honor all of who you are and encourage your freedom while centering you in your power. So healthy forgiveness is about calling back all pieces of yourself. It's about owning all of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions without getting caught in their stories. And it's about processing any internal feelings that you have and fully releasing the ones that are no longer serving you. So that's the healthy way to forgive. And boundaries exist. I've mentioned this multiple times. Boundaries exist to help keep all of what makes you in. It's not necessarily to keep others out. A lot of people who come to me are highly sensitive empaths. And as an empath, you might experience other people's emotions as if they are your own. And so it's harder to experience those boundaries or understand them because it's not how we naturally experience the world. But boundaries are about keeping you in. It's not about separating yourself from other people in a way that that is distant or cold. It's about just keeping you safe, and other people's boundaries are about the same thing for them. You also want to focus on your own internal experience. You do not need to condone what they did in order to have freedom from them. You want to focus on calling back your own sense of happiness, joy, and power. This is not about whether or not you hold them to account. Anger is like holding a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Buddha. One last thing that I want to mention before I start talking about the meditation is that we have kind of misaligned our frustrated, angry emotions with the actions that we need to take in order to keep ourselves safe. It's wise to create healthy boundaries, but we don't have to create boundaries in a place of anger. It's okay to have the full range of emotions, right? As human beings, you're going to have the full range of emotions. You're going to have moments of anger, moments of spite, moments of resentment. What you want to do is to release those and let them go as quickly as is possible for you. You want to let them flow through in a healthy way, not denying them, not stuffing them down and pretending like they don't exist, but genuinely releasing them, because holding on to the anger is what will get you into trouble, right? That's what causes the internal pain. Having anger in a moment might be healthy. Holding on to it is the part that's dysfunctional. The white light meditation. Using white light assists in illuminating the truths that will help you on your path, as well as dissolve energies that are complete. So if you had anger that arose naturally and healthily as a way to create protection, as a way to keep you safe in the moment, then white light will help it dissolve if that particular threat is no longer existing in that particular moment. Now, if you're taking the time to do a meditation, you probably don't have an immediate threat in that moment, right? It's unlikely that you're going to meditate while someone is currently threatening your physical or emotional well-being. So in general, that will help you dissolve that and illuminate any message or truth that will help you integrate the energies and the messages. I have a free white light meditation on YouTube that you can check out, and it guides you through the process of forgiveness. It's one of the methods that I like to use. And so all you need is to show up with a person or a circumstance that you feel resentful about or frustrated with or not at ease with, and the meditation will guide you the rest of the way through. So I'll have the link for that below. Go ahead and check that out. If you have a forgiveness tip, go ahead and share in the comments. This is a great community. So the more you share, the more you're going to help people. And I know so many people in my community have great forgiveness tips. Make sure to read through the ones, if there are some above you that are already mentioned, and share your own. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Also, if you haven't yet, make sure you're subscribed for email updates at spiritualmechanic.com.